Welcome to Make Shit Happen. Today our guest is Becky Barclay Prewitt. Becky, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry that you had to delay a little early morning in my lobby. So how's it going?
Wonderful. It's Friday and it's beautiful outside.
Thank you for making the trip. I know you live in Galveston right
do.
now. So this was about a 55-minute trip?
A little bit longer because I had a few stops on my way in. I had to go downtown to do a delivery and to the Galleria to check the mail at the office, then to the bank, then here. And I had a delivery here in your parking lot before I walked in.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Becky, I know there's a lot of people wondering, who is Becky Barclay Prewitt, that Sam has on Make Shit Happen. And, I interview every week. I bring in a guest who has an inspiring story, and all of us have a message one way or another. Okay. Someone can be writing a book. Someone can be an athlete who has performed at a high level. Someone can run a $100 million business. Someone can, I've had guests over here who's, turned $300,000 to $2 billion in 6 years. And, is basically a billionaire. And, but I think everyone has a story and everyone has an inspiring message that the world needs to know. And so that's why when I was going through LinkedIn the other day, I saw your profile and it caught my attention. And I'm like, you know what? She would be a great guest on my show. And a lot of people might not, I'm sure that, if they listen to the whole interview, they will understand why I thought that this was good. Before we jumped on this, I wanted to know a little bit about you. And, and I'm glad I did. And I'm glad that you're on my show. And so I want to thank you one more time.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Now, I know we have something in common that we just shared.
Yes.
We both are from A-Leaf.
We are.
And we both went to Hastings.
We did.
And I still wave my Hastings Bears pride all day long. So I'm glad you're from Hastings and not from El Suck.
I had really good friends and family that went to El Sick.
El Suck. we call it El Suck. So and I know some people who are from A-Leaf and they're listening to it, they understand that they went to El Suck.
Yeah, well, it still is, I'm sure, very competitive.
Very competitive. So, Becky, tell the listeners a little bit about you. Who is Becky Barclay Prewitt? And why such a long name? Becky Barclay Prewitt.
Because it was Becky Barclay for 40 years, and I got married 5 years ago, and my husband's last name is Prewitt, and I'm not willing to give up Barclay, but I wanted to take on Prewitt. So that is how we got Becky Barclay Prewitt.
All right. Tell us a little bit about you, Becky.
I was born in Pasadena, raised in A-Leaf. I have worked in the legal industry as an adult. Prior to becoming an adult, I worked in retail and a few office jobs, but I got into the legal industry after I went to paralegal school in 1994. Started in a law firm, then moved into a corporate paralegal position. I was on my second corporate paralegal position when I called the recruiter that placed me there and told her that our company had just filed bankruptcy. And I was a single mom with a toddler and was in complete panic and didn't know what to do. And so she asked me if I wanted to be a recruiter. I had no idea what that entailed, what that meant, but she took me under her wing, trained me. And then another friend of mine did the same thing with another company. And then I started my own company as well. And we're all still friends to this day.
But you were a paralegal at that time.
I was, yeah.
So you're a paralegal. And so she tells you, hey, become a recruiter.
Yes.
Now, what does a recruiter do?
A recruiter at that point in time would interview applicants that would apply through the paper, not through social media or any type of website or email address. We would get resumes faxed and mailed to us. I would do the screening and interviewing and try to match the applicants up with the jobs that we had, which ironically were all with law firms because it was a legal staffing firm.
Now, this is back in what year?
1997.
1997. So 1997, yeah, of course, there's no social media. Internet is barely coming on.
Right.
AOL.
I did not have an email address.
You remember that AOL dial-in?
Yes.
Yeah, and it took forever. And then they had that sound on there. That was crazy. So were y'all using internet back in 1997?
The first job I had, no. The first job in recruiting I had, no. We did not use the internet. We had a database that was uploaded to a server, and we, had a very long process of doing the data entry of applicants into the database. We actually had someone on staff that would just do nothing but data entry of the resumes and the information that we provided for them from the applications.
So let me get this straight. You're a single mother. In 1997, your company went out of business, went bankrupt. You called the recruiter, say, hey, I'm in panic mode. She asked you to be a recruiter, and now you became a recruiter. So 1997, fast forward till 2020, you're still in recruiting business.
Yes.
So are you still working? Now you have your own business.
Correct.
So when did you decide you're going to go on your own?
In 2002. 2001, I worked for one of the largest staffing agencies in the world in their legal division, and watched the Enron collapse, watched a lot of different things happen that were very, worrisome, and decided to move on and find another opportunity because I'd been with that organization for 3 years. I'd done incredibly well. I was happy with what I was doing, but I wasn't happy at the level we were at, being the largest staffing agency in the world. That's great for certain things, but it's also very risky when you go through recessions and you have all of your largest accounts go bankrupt. It was a good idea, in my opinion, for what I wanted in my goals, to downsize and have a smaller book of business.
Okay.
So one of my coworkers and I talked, and she said, why don't we do this on our own? And we started a company at that time that was called Diversified Recruiting Services. We owned that together for 9.5 years. We dissolved the partnership in 2002, and then we decided to run 2 separate entities, mine being R.L. Barclay and Associates, that's been in business since April of 2002.
Oh, wow.
Or excuse me, April of 2013.
Okay, April of 2013. So in 2002, you started a business, and then you branched off in 2013. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. So now, in 2001 or 2002, when you decided you were going to go on your own, you're still a single mother at this time?
Yes.
How old is the kid at that time?
At that time, he was in high school, and I had, and actually 2012 was when this all started to happen. My son was in high school. I was a single mom. He was in a private school. So I drove him to school and picked him up every day until he graduated. Okay. And I also had a father that was fighting cancer. So
let me slow this down. Hold on one second. So 1997, you go work for a company.
Right.
In 2002, 2002, when Enron collapsed, you decided you're going to go with a smaller book of business. Yep. Okay. In 2002, I'm sorry, your son's name is?
Jordan.
Jordan. How old is Jordan at this time?
Oh my goodness, you want me to do math at the
so, how old is he right now?
He's 26.
He's 26. So 18. So he's about 8 or 9 years old at this time. So 8 or 9 years old, you're on your own. You're a single mother. Are you living by yourself at this point?
Always lived by myself.
You want to leave this big company, have this collapse of Enron and big book of business in 2002. Were you not scared?
Terrified. I was absolutely terrified.
You want to go on your own. You don't have a paycheck.
I was making over $100,000 a year, and I had all my benefits paid for plus stock options, and I was absolutely terrified.
And you want to go open your own business with no paycheck,
no benefits,
no benefits,
no stock options,
so
no 401k.
What made you do that in 2002? That's what I want to know.
I'm very stubborn and have a lot of pride. And there were some things.
Hold on one second. We know you were stubborn because we saw a little episode of that in the lobby.
Yeah. I have a lot of pride. And there was a couple of instances that came up when I worked for the largest staffing agency in the world. And most importantly, it was when I bought my house that I still own in the Galleria area. And I came into work after the closing, and the branch manager, who was over about 40 of us possibly in the bullpen, said in the branch meeting, the Houston office meeting, we own her ass now. She has a mortgage. And I was gone in 30 days to start my own company, proudly.
Oh, okay. Oh, she said, so you're like, oh no.
Oh yeah, no one owns me. Yeah. Okay. Hence the reason I was a single mom for so long.
I mean, so tell me, were you not scared though? I mean,
I was scared. But
at this time in 2002, you're still a young woman. you got a little baby who's 8 years old. And you now have a mortgage in the Galleria area, which I'm sure was a significantly pretty good size of mortgage. You're making $100,000 in 2002.
Yeah, I was young to make that much money without a college degree. Without a college degree, mind you. Yeah.
And now you want to be on your own. I mean, how did you build that courage up to say, I'm going to go on my own?
I'm a very determined person. I know what I want, and I can really laser focus when I know that there's a way to do it. there are certain things that I can't laser focus on, like dieting and exercise, because I let other things get in the way. But when I know that there's something that truly can help me and help my loved ones, my family, my friends, I will stay focused and make it happen. And it wasn't easy. It was definitely a struggle. It was very terrifying. Lots of sleepless nights, lots of 15, 20-hour days. But it was absolutely worth it.
So, and you were afraid?
Oh, of course.
So you said a lot of sleepless night, a lot of 15, 20 hours a day. Nowadays with the social media age, a lot of, young people, they say, hey, you know what? I want to get in my own business so I won't be a slave to somebody.
Right.
So nobody will own my ass.
Right.
The same reason why you left.
Yes.
Right. But they also think I'll have freedom of time, freedom of schedule. I can work whenever I want to. I don't have to work whenever I don't have to. I won't be slaving for somebody working 8, 12, 14 hours. I'll just work for 5 hours, 6 hours. What kind of message do you have for those young people who think that? Because you've been through that.
Yeah.
You were young.
Everyone is different, and everyone has different priorities, first and foremost. I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends that own their own businesses as well, and we are all very different in the way that we want to grow or not grow and have different goals. And so for me, my goal, I like to work. I really am not comfortable not working. I brought my laptop with me in case I had downtime so I could work, and I did for a few minutes. I'm not comfortable cutting all the cords and just not doing anything. It doesn't make me feel like I've accomplished much unless there's a whole nother project going on that I'm focused on. But when I'm focused on paying my mortgage, getting caught up on bills, getting out of credit card debt. And I will tell you, that was something that I had to do in order to keep my life afloat. My house was an older home. It was built in the 70s. And so I got a really good deal on it, but private school was still very expensive. And he had to go to speech therapy, and he went to summer school every year, and he went to camp every summer. And all of that was very, very expensive. So I used a lot of credit cards to get through it. And that's what motivated me to work harder. I wanted to get to a place where I didn't have to owe people anything anymore, that I could look back and say, okay, this check came in, this is what I'm investing, this is what I'm saving, this is what I'm spending on bills, and this is what I'm going to go and have fun with. And it did not happen immediately. It took all those sleepless nights and 7 days a week, but I knew what my goals were and what I wanted, and that was the only way I knew how to accomplish them. For the people that want to work a flexible schedule and work less hours and not have to answer to someone, it's certainly possible, but you've got to make sure that those goals that you have and those dreams that you have financially equal what you're putting into it, because you can't have a more flexible schedule and take every Friday off and leave the work at 3:00 for happy hour and expect to make millions unless you've got some kind of amazing idea that none of us know about.
I told someone who was working for me one time, one of my assistants, I told him, I said, hey, it's very simple. It reciprocates, right? You can work less, okay, and have less money, but have a lot of time.
Right.
Or you can work more, have more money, but little time.
Right.
I'm like, you got to figure out which one you're gonna pick, and then you got to use that bucket and go with it. But you can't work less and have a lot of money.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't work like that unless, just exactly what you said, unless you have a great idea, a great invention, or you built this great app, or you got lucky. And we're doing this 3-minute Thursday segment also. So, we do this 3-minute Thursday. And on that, I said, hey, some people, I was talking about education. And I said, some people, they can get lucky. Hey, some people do win lotto. People go to Vegas and they can bet on red and bet on black, and they might win. Right. But it's not for everybody. Right? It's an anomaly. It doesn't happen all the time. So exactly what you said. If you're going to work less and that's your goal, don't expect to make millions of dollars.
Right.
And nowadays, in our generation, and I know you're in this hiring process, you're recruiter. Have people changed? Have the employee pool changed, or is it only me?
It is. It's almost unspeakable. I'm going to try to pick the right words to say that the market that we are in, first and foremost, unemployment's the lowest it's ever been.
Right.
So that's great for the economy, and that's great for people that are working because they've got job security. The odds of people being laid off these days are pretty slim. But it's hard for the employers that have jobs to offer to people, that need to hire people that either are unemployed or on a temporary basis. They need someone to come in just short term for 3 to 6 months and get work done and be reliable. It's incredibly challenging to find that type of employee, someone that can fit the mold that I did a $3 million temporary book of business in the 1990s. I don't know how easy it would be to do that for the same type of clients at the same level of applicants that I did back then, because it's not possible.
You're telling me that, hey, people are not getting laid off right now. But I mean, when something like what we are going through right now, and I'm talking about right now times where oil business is down, energy business is down, and now on top of it, we have coronavirus with the airline laying everybody off. People are going crazy like it's apocalyptic times, right? It's
They're in panic.
Okay. And we will see some layoffs over here, and we will see a shift over here. What do you think about that?
I think it'll be unfortunate, but as a recruiter, I can see where people shouldn't panic, because there are a lot of jobs out there. And if you align yourself with the right people, whether it be the right recruiter or the right career organization that helps you with your resume or your career search, or just the right friends or neighbors or family members that know of the right opportunities, I don't think anyone would be unemployed very long if we recover quickly from the panic that's setting
Now,
in.
you've been in recruiting business since 1997, so you've seen a lot of ups and downs, especially in Houston. Now, how much do you agree that Houston is very oil dependent?
It is 100%.
Okay. So back in 2015, which is, I'm just going short period of time.
Right.
In 2015, when oil slumped all the way down to $25, $26, I was telling people, I'm like, indirectly, you're in oil business.
Right.
Okay. Everybody who lives in Houston or surrounding, we are in oil business.
Right.
Like it or not, you might say I'm in retail, I'm in landscaping business, I'm in t-shirt printing business. You're in oil business, right? Because everyone is intertwined in one way or another. You think that's my statement was pretty true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So my focus has been legal recruiting for many years. All my law firm clients. So I could say I'm a legal recruiter.
Right.
Oil doesn't affect me. And that's not true, because my clients represent the oil companies. They represent the plaintiffs suing the oil companies. They represent the people working in the refineries. They represent the people that are injured in the refineries. And so,
not only the refineries, I'm talking about the people who are making the drill bits.
Yes.
The equipment that is
valves.
used, the valves, the equipment that's used to make the valves, the oil the lubricants or the
all
oil,
the supplies.
the supplies that are used to make those valves, the machinery that's
the uniforms.
The uniforms. I mean,
the Red Wing shoes.
Exactly. You got it, right? And one of my friends says, well, I'm in uniform business. I'm like, well, who are you going to supply the uniform to if they're not going to buy it? It's just like, if you're supplying it to me and my customer does not come buy furniture, okay, I'm not going to use a lot of uniforms. I'm like, you got to think about it that way. And people don't realize it. Well, now that oil is back on this, downward trajectory, what do you think is going to happen in Houston?
I always hope for the best. Certainly there's a risk of layoffs, and at any time the price of oil drops, there's risk involved with our city, because we depend on it so much. Our country depends on it, but we are an energy and oil and gas town.
I mean, yeah, but you got to think about it. People who live in Arizona or California, they're like, oh, please, gas, please go down. Gas, please go down. Okay.
Yep.
People in Houston are like, please
go
gas,
up.
don't go up. Please don't go down. Go up, right?
Right.
And I mean, we hit $60 and we have a panic mode over here. We hit 50s. I mean, it's crisis time.
Right.
So Houston has been trying to diversify for a long, long time, since the 80s, right? Way before mine, your time. And I mean, we're still not there. People who are listening to you and they work for an oil and gas company or oil and gas related company, are there other jobs for them in this market?
I would say yes, depending on what their skill set is. So if you have an executive assistant to the president of an organization, absolutely. There's a lot of organizations, lots of companies are moving here still every day. Law firms are moving here and opening offices every day. And so there's opportunity there. Engineers, there's other ways to utilize those skills as well. Accounting obviously is across that you can use in any sector, just depending on what type of accounting you're doing. HR, IT. Some people work in the mortgage companies. And so it really just depends on what their skill set is and how you can cross-sell those skills into another role.
So you don't think there should be a state of panic at this point?
I would never encourage anyone to be in a state of panic
Okay.
for any reason.
So let's go back to you. In 2002, you go out on your own, okay? In 2012, you branch off. Now it's totally your company.
Right.
I think you branched off from the partner that you had in 2002.
We dissolved our partnership.
You dissolved your partnership. Now you're back on this crossroads. I'm going to start something new.
Yes.
Did you take some of your old book of business with you?
Absolutely.
It was a pretty amicable.
Very amicable. We both kept our book of business. We respect each other, even though we're no longer in touch with each other. I still have a high amount of respect for her. She continues to do legal recruiting from what I understand. I continue to do legal recruiting. There are certain clients that she dealt with all the time when we were business partners. She'll continue to do so. I expanded my business outside of legal. I took it to other cities. I took it into other markets. And I live in Galveston now, and I've spent the last several months focusing on the market in Galveston and growing my business there. We just had different goals for our future.
Okay. So do you, now you've been in this industry for 20 years roughly, about 23 years recruiting, and on your own for 18 years, and now completely on your own for the last 7 or 8 years. How many hours do you work now, Becky?
12 to 15.
Still?
Oh, yeah. I left my
5 days a week, 4 days a week?
7. But I have 2 companies now also. So
Becky, so you're telling me after 20 years, you're
I
still
work
working 7 days a week?
I absolutely.
12 to 15 hours?
Yeah.
You're addicted to working.
I love it.
So what is the goal? What is the ultimate goal?
The goal is just to continue to be happy. I had a goal of living in Galveston, and I accomplished it. I had a goal of having an office in Galveston. I've accomplished it. The car that's in the parking lot, that was a goal of mine for 7 years. It took me 7 years to get the car I drive, and I bought it used. I bought it with a lot of miles on it so I could afford it and not have the car note that would normally come with it if I would have driven it right off the lot.
I'm sorry, what car is it?
It's a Lexus SUV. And so I do tend to always have goals. Right now, my goal is to make a decision on the house we have in Houston. I'm not ready. Women, I've heard, get emotionally attached to material things, and I certainly am one of those people. I'm emotionally attached to the house because it's the first and only house that I've owned and lived in and raised my child in. We had a secondary home in Austin that I sold, and it was easy to sell that because we only lived there on the weekends and spring break and during the summer. But this was really home, or still is considered my home. So right now that's my goal. And then once that's done, my goal will be to find where to invest that money in Galveston, because at the end of the day, I would like to own in Galveston somewhere, somehow, some way.
So right now you own in Galveston, or you rent in Galveston?
We rent in Galveston. We're in an old historic hotel.
Wow. It's Galveston is a growing economy.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm actively participating in the chamber there. I'm on the Navigator Committee. We had 2 meetings yesterday morning, and I'm keeping my ear to the ground at all times to see what's happening next on the island. And I do think it's going to be booming.
Kind of off the subject of Becky Barclay Prewitt and onto a little bit, I'm going to deviate a little bit and go to Galveston. Is it true, we have heard for several years that, Texas might get legal gambling and first stop might be Galveston. Is there any truth to that?
Depends on who you ask. I'm not affiliated with any gambling in the state of Texas. I have an opinion on both sides. I see both sides. I see the good and the bad. I don't know that I would be the one to make a decision on it at any time, not even for voting purposes. I'm torn on the issue. I love to go to Louisiana. I have a timeshare in Las Vegas, so I do like to gamble personally. But everyone is different, and just like you said earlier in this conversation, we could all go bet on red. We're not all going to win.
We're not all going to win.
And so it's not for everyone. I do think, and I have heard from what I consider credible sources, that if it is legalized in the state of Texas, I have heard that there will be casinos very quickly on the ground or on the water in Galveston. And when I say quickly, we're talking days.
Really?
Yeah. Rumors.
So back in the days when Louisiana legalized gambling, people became rich instantly.
Right.
Okay, but it was just like,
It's temporary.
it's well, I mean, when I say like because they applied for the license.
Oh, yes. The
You know,
owners. Mhm.
yeah. So I mean, and to apply for a license, I mean, I don't know, it's a lot of bureaucracy involved, I think. Okay, but so if you were a betting person, you think that we will see legal gambling legalized in Texas within the next 5 to 10 years?
Closer to 10 is what I think.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I see it coming. I think that certain laws that we've had for decades and decades and decades, whether it be regarding drinking, smoking, voting, joining the military, there's always been certain age limits and certain restrictions on when you can buy alcohol and when you can't buy it. Sundays before 10, after midnight.
Yeah.
Everything's got a regulation on it. And I think that slowly but surely some of those regulations will go to the wayside. And I do think that gambling will probably be legalized in 10 years. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I could
it might be sooner.
Yeah, it may not be 10 years. It may not ever happen. I can't predict the future, but I do know that there's a lot of people that want it to happen and that are pushing for it. And
especially people who now own a lot of real estate in Galveston.
Yes.
Like, such as restaurants and
Yes.
hotels.
People like
stuff.
that.
People like those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People like that might have a vested interest.
Might have
I don't
vested
know.
interest.
I don't know.
Well, especially if people like that now own big hotel in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
And Las Vegas.
And New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's another story.
It is. And it's not my story.
I honestly think, I mean, living in Houston for so long, I've seen the transformation of Galveston.
Yep.
And I mean, it's becoming really nice. I mean, we are scorned by hurricanes, but so is Miami. So is Fort
The
Lauderdale.
entire Gulf Coast is. Keep
Right?
that in mind.
But Houston has had a lot of, flooding issues in recent years, which has discouraged people to move to Houston. But you just told me right now that there's still a lot of companies moving to Houston, a lot of law firms coming to Houston. You might have your ear more to the street in that way. So tell us a little bit about that. Are we facing a negative economy in Houston because people are discouraged because of the flooding and the issues, or no?
I've seen, so over the span of my adult life, I've seen a huge change in the demographics of renting versus owning. And you can look around anywhere in the city of Houston and see all these high rises of condos and apartments going up. And keep in mind, I rent in Galveston right now as well. I do think that the organizations that are coming here, and by the way, the people that rented my house in the Galleria area was a company that moved here and they needed a place for their staff to live. And now they've gone back to the state that they came from, which is why it's available again. So I do think a lot of the employees, whether they're here long-term or short-term, start off by renting first and then decide, if this is the place they're going to be, to move their family here and purchase. I don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to the real estate sector, except for what I see driving around. I mean, you can drive anywhere.
What about you hear companies? Like, I mean, are there companies moving to Houston?
I read the same information everyone else has, which is the business journals. I read the paper. I get the paper at my home, and I follow anytime I hear about another law firm opening their doors in Houston. If it's public knowledge and it's in the paper or on the internet, I get that information immediately and start chasing it or tracking it, if you will.
Tell me something. What do you, for people who say, hey, I want to start my own business, it can be young, it can be old. Somebody, what advice will you give somebody like that?
Be determined and don't give up.
Be determined.
I actually have a tattoo that I got just a few years ago as an adult, not as a child on a drunken college night. But it says I refuse to sink. And it actually was because a few years ago, it was tough. And I was so tired. Specifically, and anyone close to me or anyone that followed me on social media back then on my private Facebook page knows that I was so sick and tired of legal recruiting, I couldn't see straight. I was exhausted by it. And I had told everyone I was quitting. I had told everyone that I was going to go and do any type of recruiting other than legal. I would go work for anyone else other than continue to work on my own doing legal. And thankfully, I had some really strong, knowledgeable people around me that encouraged me to stay with it, keep my head in the game, and watch what would happen and just make some adjustments. And I did. Be willing to listen to people. Be willing to take advice and say yes instead of always saying no. I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. and you'll be really surprised at the outcome. Sometimes things won't work out, but you don't know if you don't try and you don't listen.
That's that's something you got to humble yourself to
Mhm.
listen to people.
Right.
So pride gets in that way sometimes.
Yes.
What do you think about that when pride gets in your way?
Have your pride, but also have an open head and an open heart. Because I was very prideful when I was younger, and we're talking just 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even now. But you have to be willing to see what the benefit might be if you're willing to consider something. I saw something on TV about three or 4 years ago where a girl said, I just learned how to say yes to everything. Whatever it is, I say yes to it. And I thought it was really silly at first. But I thought, you know what? She's making millions. She's doing just fine. Maybe she knows something that I don't know. And so every time I catch myself wanting to say no to something, I stop myself and reevaluate my judgment on it. And why am I wanting to say no? Because for years, I said no to everything. I felt like I just knew everything. And I felt like no one could tell me any different. I knew what I needed to do. I knew how I needed to do it. And I was going to just do my own thing, and everyone else could do their own. And I really didn't solicit advice, and I didn't take it if it was offered. I am the exact opposite now. I continuously go into training programs, take training courses. I have mentors in both my companies. One of the reasons I didn't leave my office till 8:00 last night was because I was in a study group for a new certification that I'm learning about so that I can take the test in September. So I encourage people to do things like that as well.
Now, you told us when the interview started that you are very proud. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what kind of level personally you have to do to come down a couple of notches and say, you know what, maybe I should listen to people. Maybe I should break the habit of doing what I do every day. Because someone said one time, I don't remember the person who said it, if you do the same thing you do all the time, then expect the same results you've gotten. What brought you down to listen to people? I mean, the problem is when you're proud and you have that pride, it's sometimes very hard.
It is. It is. And it's an adjustment. It is a lifestyle adjustment. It's not just a daily adjustment. I mean, you really have to start readjusting a lot of judgment and decisions you make in your life. For me personally, it was once my father had passed away, once my son had grown up and moved out of the house, I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to keep me focused right now. And that was a problem for me, but I didn't realize it until a little bit later. So then things weren't going financially as I expected them to. Everything had always gone fairly smoothly. Yes, we had recessions. Yes, things would get bad, but they didn't ever get bad enough to where I wanted to close the doors and give up until a few years ago. And it did. The stress level of some of the deals that would fall apart and the reasons they would fall apart were mind numbing. I just couldn't get my head around some of the judgment that some of my candidates or clients were having. And it was costing everybody a lot of time and a lot of money. And it was one after the other. And I kept thinking, why? Well, why does this keep happening to me? And I finally just started to listen to people that were giving me advice that I didn't want to listen to before. And it made a lot more sense when I started evaluating what I was doing and thinking about and looking at if I would have made a different decision and gone this way or done this, could I have saved that deal or could I have saved everyone's time? It wasn't so much about closing the deal, it is saving someone's time. So I would encourage people not to go broke before they decide to open their heart and their head. Don't wait until you're ready to throw in the towel. Start doing it now so you can just better yourself from where you're at.
Wow, that's a great advice, Becky. Becky, tell us, in 20 years, 18 years, you have had your own business. I mean, that's a big accomplishment. People don't last in businesses, for that long until they're very strong. And I mean, you just shared with us, and I appreciate you sharing that with us about a couple of years ago, what you went through. There's always going to be ups and downs, always ups and downs in business, like you said, recessions and everything. Give me a couple of your greatest accomplishments that you've had in your lifetime.
Absolutely, my son, like without a doubt. Having a child and watching him flourish right now, the best accomplishment anyone probably could have as a parent.
Yeah.
He makes me proud every single day, like without hesitation. I don't agree with every decision he makes. I don't agree with everything he does every day, but I am so proud of the man he's become. And awesome. I don't think it's all because of me. It is because it took a village.
It does take a village to raise a child, right?
It does. It really does. It took everybody helping when they could. So,
Becky, give me like your day. I mean, right now you said that there was you had clients that were and candidates that were just falling apart and stuff like that. How many people do you recruit in a month roughly? Give me an estimate so I could get to know.
When you say recruit, it just depends on which level
Or
of
place.
the.
Let me just say place.
On
How about
place.
that?
Okay, because I was going to say I reach out to over 100 people a week easily, and that whether or not they're interested in having a conversation, I can't.
How many
say
people
I
do you
recruit.
place?
I would say I place on average about 4 or 5 a month.
4 or 5 a month. Let's talk about it. Some people don't know what a recruiter really does. Okay, so I had talked to a recruiter a while back, and they basically said people who are happy at their job don't post or Indeed or Monster and stuff like that. They stay where they're at. Right. Okay, they might not be even happy, but they stay because they're stable. Is that true?
True.
So you are basically a headhunter.
Yes.
Okay, I can call you that.
Yep.
Like
Doesn't hurt my feelings.
In other terms, you're a headhunter. So how do you reach out to these people?
So because I've done this so long, I'm lucky enough and blessed enough to have a database that goes back to 2002 with over 41,000 people in it.
Right.
So there's a starting point. I have a LinkedIn network that has over 20,000 people. There's another starting point, but that still doesn't find everyone that you need by any means.
Right.
What I do enjoy doing, and I do it every day, and I sat in the parking lot before I came in here and did it here in my car on the telephone. I always remind people what I do. Wherever I'm at, I always have my working hat on. I make sure they know how to reach me. They know what I do because they know people that are looking. They have friends, they have family, church members, neighbors, whatever it may be, that might be interested in looking for a job. And then taking it a step further, when I know specifically what I need to fill a position, I call someone that I know that works for a company or a law firm that does exactly what I'm looking for. As happy as they may be, I would like to know who they know that isn't happy in the same environment that they're in, or who do they know that recently left or was recently hired and isn't working out. And just because someone's not working out one place doesn't mean they can't work out somewhere else. I've had lots of conversations with people about that recently because there's been a lot more terminations or release of employments, or things haven't worked out for people and their tenure gets a little messy. But I truly believe there's a place for everyone.
So what industries besides legal do you recruit? And if someone is listening and they're like, you know what, I might need to reach out, Becky.
Sure.
I'm tired of my job.
I have
industries
successfully and continue to successfully recruit in executive assistants, accounting, all levels of accounting. I have a CPA position right now. IT, I've done IT managers, project managers, Lean Six Sigma 6 management. I have done mortgage, real estate. I placed the CEO of a local bank that's actually based here in Missouri City.
What bank, if you don't mind? Oh, you can't say.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm not giving my clients' information away to the world.
Okay.
But I've done banking, mortgage, real estate, IT, human resources, accounting, and
So
administrative.
basically a lot of fields. You do a lot of C-level and also
Support level
too.
Yes.
Okay. Becky, how do they find you on social media? If someone wants to reach out to you, where do they find you at?
rlbarclay.com is my website.
rlbarclay.com and BARCLAY.
Why?
I'm sorry, BARCLAY.
Correct.
.com.
Yep.
And okay, and social media, where do they find you at?
Becky Barclay Prewitt on Facebook, Becky Barclay Prewitt on Twitter. And I'm a little slow to the game, but I'm finally learning how to use Instagram.
And where are you at on Instagram?
Becky Barclay Prewitt on Instagram as well.
So add the whole name, add Becky Barclay Prewitt.
Yes.
And you said you were on LinkedIn.
Yes,
where
I'm
on
LinkedIn.
You're
Same name, Becky Barclay Prewitt.
So you basically keep it uniform, Becky Barclay
I
Prewitt.
do. And if you go to rlbarclay.com, which is my recruiting business website, you can find my links to LinkedIn and Facebook, and I need to add the link to Instagram on there as well.
Awesome. Is there ever a question that you wish someone would ask you, but they don't? I mean, nobody asks you. I mean, you're like, man, I wish someone would have asked me that. Or let's just say you're in this interview. You're like, Sam never asked me this question. I wish he would have asked me something like that.
Yesterday, I was able to give a little bit of a testimonial to an applicant because she asked me, what do I say about being terminated from my last 2 jobs? And I told her, I said, you have to be honest. The word termination is something I don't like. I don't encourage people to say you're fired or you were fired or you were terminated. I think there's softer ways to say it and still be honest. But I told her because she's she's worried she can't find another job because of the last 2 terminations. And I told her to look at all the positive aspects she can think of and write them all down. Something good came from those jobs. Something good truly did. And I wish more people would ask me that question, like, how do I get over this hurdle of termination? Because there is a way to get over it. There's books and researches and studies all over the internet on people being terminated. And a lot of people take it so personally because it is an emotional thing. It is very personal and it's very frustrating, and it does hurt your ego. Most people, it hurts their ego. And so I enjoy helping people when they ask, understand how to get over that hurdle, because there's a way to talk about the positive. Everyone's got something to share from their experience, even if they were terminated, on the good things that they learned from it, whether it be the type of skills that they learned, the type of personalities they learned how to deal with or didn't learn how to deal with, but they now know not to work for again, anything like that. And it ended up being an hour-long conversation in the car at Target yesterday with this applicant on the phone. But it made me feel happy to hear her understand a totally different side of the situation instead of just being down on herself.
Yeah. But I know there's, when you're placing people and doing this, this thing came really popular a couple of years, like about a year ago, Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Did you ever encounter anybody from the Me Too?
I wouldn't know necessarily if I encountered them from the Me Too, but it's certainly something.
Or what about harassment at work?
Yeah, that's something I've had complaints about for years, and that actually is one of the handful of reasons why I was ready to throw the towel in. I personally was not harassed in the business, but I have had clients do things that I did not feel were kind or professional or ethical or legal to the candidates, either during the interviewing process or after I had placed them there. And I'm very fast, and sometimes a little too fast, I admit, to fire a client. And by client, I mean the company that's paying me. Because if I find out that they are doing any type of illegal activity, whether it be discrimination for any reason, and it doesn't have to be what the law says. It's what I say. It's my company. It's what I want my name to be associated with. And I do not want my name associated with organizations that encourage or promote unethical behavior.
Yeah. And so it happens a lot?
Oh, I wouldn't say a lot because I choose not to communicate or do business with them, but it does. It definitely does.
In general,
yes,
it does
absolutely. Absolutely.
And so what kind of message would you have? Yeah, so what kind of message would you have for people to, it goes both ways.
Yeah,
so what kind of message would you have for people to say, so that way they don't get involved or they don't get brought down to that level?
Don't act in desperation, and definitely stand your ground. Know what you're worth. We're all worth something. We all have value here. We're all here to do something every day. Most of us work for a living because we want to have nice things and we want to pay our bills. Make sure you know that this is your future, this is your livelihood, and be prideful, but also be dedicated to what you're doing and just stand your ground. You can be honest and protect yourself, and hopefully, not always, but hopefully avoid situations where someone's able to take advantage of you.
I'm going to ask you a question, which might be, I shouldn't, but I'm still going to do it. Okay. There's a lot of girls out there, especially if you're in the legal, in legal recruiting, younger girls that, just see the shine and the glimmer and the bright lights, right? And they get in this thing, where they get involved with the lawyers and stuff like that. And I mean, lately we have, seen this big emergence of sugar daddy kind of deal. I'm sure, I don't know if you have any clients, but it's out there. What kind of message would you have for these girls?
Stop it. That's my message. Stop doing it. You're worth more, first and foremost. You are worth more. You have more to offer than just looking for a sugar daddy and letting someone else take care of you. It's not what it used to be. I don't think that they realize that it could all come crashing down in a moment's notice, and they have nothing to fall back on. We're talking general terms here. We're not talking about a specific person. But I would say make your own worth, make your own value, make people want to look at you as the shiny object and want to be like you instead of chasing the shiny object.
And I mean, it's just the emergence of social media, Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
And girls want, hey, if it doesn't matter if they're making $25-$30 an hour at their job, they just want that extra money. And they do this stuff not knowing that almost borderline prostitution. But
Right.
but I mean, at the same time, wait, let me just stop.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, there's more and more girls who are out there because they want those gifts, fancy purses,
Right.
nice trips,
Right.
and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure you see that.
I have.
Okay.
I've seen it not just in my work, but in my personal life as well.
Okay. And what do you, I mean, what is your professional opinion about that?
Honestly, to stop. I really think that we could all, and I know we're all wired differently. Not everybody wants to work. Not everybody wants to work hard. And certainly not everyone wants to run 2 small companies and work 7 days a week like I'm doing. Not everyone wants to do that. I get that. But find something that you can do that brings you value and success and something that you can be proud of so that you don't have to go and look at someone else to provide it for you.
In this age, such an information age, social media age, everything, do you think this can catch up to them, for future employments?
In what way?
I don't know. I mean, if you let's say, for example, they have an affair with a lawyer and their wife finds
Oh,
out,
yeah,
now they're gone. Now they're looking for a new job.
Houston's got what, 4 million people, but I can tell you things spread like wildfire.
Really?
and the unfortunate thing is that a lot of times what spreads isn't even the truth and isn't factual. But if you put yourself in a situation and you allow and encourage and participate in continued behavior, then you have to reap the consequences sometimes, and it's painful and it's hard. But I just feel like if you could find your value and what you're worth, it might be a lot easier to stand on your own 2 feet and do things for yourself instead of letting someone else do it for you.
Becky, Houston is a big city, but a small town.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And I mean, we are still in Texas. And you said there's some stuff that you don't like it. Illegal, ethical, non-ethical, discriminatory. Do you see that a lot still today?
I hear about it. I don't see it because I don't work with the people that I've heard do it now because I don't know who truly does it because I'm not participating in it or getting the firsthand knowledge.
Is that part of that frustrated you?
Oh, yes.
You're talking about the racism, the sexism, all that stuff?
I had someone in the past 6 months that I knew very well give me a job order and specifically told me, we don't want anyone that has small children for this role. And I blew up. I thankfully I knew the person well enough to blow up and not feel like I was risking much, but you can't do that.
So for business owners that are listening to this, why is that wrong?
It's discrimination. You have to hire someone based on their skill set and based on the essential job functions you have listed in the job description. And if you want to go hire someone that doesn't have small children, that's on you. You can put that in your advertisement and you can be sued, but I'm not getting involved in it.
Gotcha. Becky, I appreciate you coming over here, sharing so much with us. We do this all the time before we end the conversation. We want to, let's say if the world was to be over today and you have nothing left, but you write down on a piece of paper 3 advices, or it can be 3 advice, 3 way of living, a message to the world, and put it in an envelope, right?
Right.
Tell me, what will it be? Let's go.
I definitely would say that I want everyone to know what they're worth. Everyone's worth something, and most of us deal with insecurities. So know your worth. Go after your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't have something or you can't do something. An example is just because you don't have a 4-year degree doesn't mean you can't be incredibly successful and happy doing it. And then I would also say find a way to be happy. Find the good and the worst of situations, including a termination. There's something you've learned that'll be valuable that you can walk away with.
And what is the third?
Those were 3, I thought.
Which one? No,
They were, yeah, okay.
Was it 3?
Yeah, that was 3.
I lost it there. Okay. I got so mesmerized in your message.
It's all right.
You said that humility, you had to humble yourself and listen to people.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your point of view on humility. Becky Barclay Prewitt's version of humility.
Does not know everything. I really don't. Even on the things that I thought I knew a week ago or a year ago, I now understand, and I encourage other people to understand that even if you knew something a week ago or a year ago, realize that you could know more now. Things could change. There could be more details. There could be more circumstances. There could be more reasons. There could be more technology, whatever the issue is. Just because you knew it then doesn't mean that it's always going to stay the same, and open your eyes up and your mind up to hearing what could be different now. in any circumstances.
Why is humility so important?
I just feel like you can't learn and you can't grow if you don't have it. It'll go back to what you said before. You keep doing the same thing all the time and expecting different results. It's not going to happen. You're going to keep getting the same results. And if you're happy with the same results, if you're happy with the way your life is right now and you don't want anything at all ever to change, then just keep doing what you're doing.
Becky, is there anything you want to ask me before I end this interview?
Do you have furniture for sale here? I did send a friend of mine to one of your locations yesterday after lunch, as a matter of fact.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
She went to the 45 Beltway 8 location.
Oh, okay. Well, we opened up one in Webster also.
And maybe that's the one. It's the brand new location on the right going
down.
Right.
Okay, NASA Road 1.
NASA Road 1. I knew there was a big overpass.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she went there yesterday after lunch.
That's so awesome. I appreciate that. Becky, thank you for being with us over here.
Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate it. Thanks for all the message you shared with us, the inspirational you shared with us. And, to everybody out there who's listening, this can be a big lesson for that they can do anything. They just need to know their worth. They can be a single mom now with a 4-year college degree, with a young baby, infant. Okay, and they can achieve their dream as long as they work hard on it, as long as they stay consistent, and they are open to listening and learning new things.
And say yes.
Say yes. Just like we heard.
Stop telling me no.
Stop telling me no. That is the hard thing, right?
Yeah.
To say yes. And I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean it is. But you're such an inspiration to people, to girls who are out there. They just went through high school. They had a baby at a young age. They don't know what to do. They're lost. And I mean, some of us, some people are fortunate that some of us are fortunate. We have great parents. Some of us are like lost in this transition. But, just to listen and hear for what you have done, it's such a great story. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you.